let's get started. I know almost everybody. I'm Kathy Kerstetter, and I teach business. Um, there's going to be two parts to the presentation. Probably the majority are going to just be my PowerPoint slides, but then I'm going to go into the actual forums and show you how to set things up. If you want the slide presentation, just email me and I'll send it to you. And when we're going through it, if you see these brackets, it describes what I choose to do with what's given to us. And please stop me and ask questions because I don't want to talk the whole hour. So just stop me anytime. So we're going to talk Canvas discussion boards. And first we're going to talk about what is a discussion board, because it just is so many different things. And then we're going to tour the different features, talk a little bit about using groups in the discussion boards, how to grade the boards, and then tips and tricks. So first off, what is a discussion board? And a discussion board is an asynchronous thread, okay? Meaning that not everybody's on there at the same time. And then definitions that you'll hear a lot are initial response or initial post. And I can't think of a time when I haven't used this, but the initial response is when the student does their initial response, which is the meat of what's going to be graded for them. And then typically you want others to respond to them to get some interaction going between the students and the instructor. So, and what you'll find is that people use the vocabulary very, all over the place. Some people will call them discussion questions, a message board, a discussion board, an online forum, discussion forums, discussions. So if someone says, how's your online forum, but you call it a discussion board, you're probably talking the same thing to each other, just lots of ways to say it. Uses, things that I've used it for is every semester I do student introductions. Here is my little cafe picture that I have in my Canvas class for my general question area. I call it the business cafe. And then the main thing is I have discussion question assignments. I also used it once we did the stay at home and I was doing video lectures. I created little forums for them to talk about what they took away from the lecture. The discussions can be for a grade or no grade. And so when I've done it with a no grade is when we first got the stay at home, my husband and I were talking the other day. I mean, it was just a really strange time in our lives. We were all sitting here, we weren't sure what was going on. So I did some no grade ones, and actually I gave them extra credit for it. So if you create a discussion board, and I said I wanted it to be a graded one, and then I put 0 in for the points. I did a little discussion board that said, share a funny video. And so people started to share funny videos. And so I could give them a couple of points for it. I could have given them nothing for it, and then it would be an ungraded one. And a couple of people in this survey I did at the end, they said we really loved that in the time when we were just really kind of lost, all of a sudden we were getting some cool videos. So you can be creative and use it for different things. This, I can't take credit for. When I did this presentation like a month ago, and I was talking with my colleague, Joe Wagner, who's a new instructor. He's been here for a year now, and he sent this to me. And so if you want to read it in detail, ask for the slides, I'll send them to you. I thought it was a good thing, but I'm not gonna spend time to go over it. It just talks about different types of discussion boards you can have. So before we start talking discussion boards, I think of Canvas as a manufacturing factory. I spent the majority of my career in medical device manufacturing. So I still always wear that manufacturing hat. So first, let's talk about, here's the different areas of our main page on Canvas. This is our course navigation. Here's our content area, our right-hand sidebar, and then our breadcrumbs. So, and then when I look at my content area, I break everything into modules. And usually my modules are weekly. Every week I have a new module to break it, to chunk it out for students. So think about if I'm making a coffee maker. I'm a manufacturer and I'm making coffee makers, and I have all these suppliers. Some make the big gears for me, some make the triangular gears for me, and all these little things come into my manufacturing plant, and I put them together, and hopefully I have this lovely coffee maker when I'm done. Well, the same thing here in Canvas. When I click quizzes, I can make all my quizzes at that supplier, at my quiz supplier. All my rubrics can be at my rubrics supplier. All my files will be at my files supplier. So then when I go to make a module, this is my finished product. Isn't that a lovely coffee maker? Whew, I think I'd burn myself. But so here is my finished product for Canvas. It's a module, and I went in and said, okay, I want this discussion board for this module. Here's another discussion board I'm going to pull in. I'm going to pull a quiz in from that supplier. I'm going to pull a file in from that. And so then I get this finished product, hoping that it's good. I don't make all my components in my finished goods. I do it in my suppliers over here. So as we tour the discussion board area, I would go to my discussion board supplier, and I'd go in there, and this is a great way to make your discussion boards. I'm going to go through all the little components. Here, you can either read there's a drop-down box, and it says either all discussions or the unread discussions. And then here's one where you can search by author. I have never ever used these two things before. Maybe if you have 100 discussion boards, and I can't imagine anyone having 100 discussion boards unless you had like a 3-year class going or something. So I never use these. Number 3 is what you use to create a discussion board, and we're going to talk about that later. And then number 4 are your settings, and it's always important to remember those little setting buttons are there. So when I hit the setting button, I get these choices. And the first one is manually mark posts as read. And at the point I go down the feed when I go live here, hang on, let me pull my, so if I have this discussion board and I'm scrolling down it like this, as I scroll, it'll be considered read just by scrolling, okay? Just by scrolling. So I have that choice. Do I want that to happen or not? I could care less here. I'm not really scrolling like that to see what's read or not. Allow students to create their own discussion threads. This is something I use. Otherwise, I need to create the main thread and say reply to this. So I let them create their own discussion threads. Allow students to edit and delete their own posts. I do not allow this because I don't want them to go in and read somebody else's and then edit it to make it better. Here's your one chance, put it in. You know, I taught all of winter. I was an early adopter, and I taught all of winter with one of my classes. I might have had one student that asked me something, but I don't let them edit. And then this last one is attach files to discussions. Now it's really going to depend on what kind of discussion you have. but I would say 95% of the time, I do not allow files for it, because if you have files, again, let me go back to this. If I have files, instead of reading this, I'm going to have to click and open something. And instead of reading this, I'm going to have to click and open something. So I don't allow files because I want that. I want my discussion board when I'm reading the students' work to flow and just to continue to go down. Are we all cool? Questions? Anyone not cool? Yeah, you're all looking cool, so I'll go on. Okay, so then, yes.
Sorry.
Nope, you're fine.
Do you give a general topic and then let them choose, or do you just blanket and say whatever?
I'm going to show you one in a little bit of what I do.
Okay.
Okay, and then sometimes I give them, I guess I do a couple things. Most often I give them the questions. Here's what you're going to answer. Sometimes I have them do research and share their research, you know, where then they're kind of, but they're still answering questions. I typically always have questions for them to answer, even if they're doing research.
So when you say create discussion topics and you let them do that, you actually give them some kind of guidance as to what you want. Okay.
And I give them, the questions. And for me, I live and die by the questions, because in my opinion, it makes it so much easier to grade. And I'll get to that in a couple minutes. And if I don't answer it, let me know. Okay.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. So here's the settings. You can, excuse me, you can also go on the main page. I can go here to settings on the main page of my course, because if I use this is only for this one discussion board. But if I go to the overall settings, I can just do this and say, I never want it, I won't click it, so they'll never be able to attach a file. And I'm always going to let them create discussions. And, you know, the same thing is I'm never going to let them edit. So then you don't have to keep doing that over and over, and you can just do that in your overall settings. And it's way at the bottom. You won't see it. Let me go to the settings here. It's way at the bottom. So if I go to settings here and there's more options, I click it, and that's where those little boxes are intermingled to do that. Cool. So then back to that supplier called discussions. They have 3 different things there. They have pinned discussions, regular discussions, closed discussions. I find it kind of messy. I wish they weren't there. I don't use these things. Typically, I find the pinned discussions are one that are open or recently used. The regular discussions, you know, I just wish they were all put together, but that's how they do it. The closed for discussions, I am someone that when the week ends, the discussion board ends, no late work accepted on discussions, because it's no longer a discussion. If you come in the day after and you submit your work and then you reply to someone else, it's a one-way discussion. So other assignments I'll accept late. I do not accept discussions late. And so I control that when I'm creating the discussion. I say it's available until, and I'll show you that in a minute. But if I wanted to, I could drag these around, but again, I don't use these 3 things. And then any discussion that I already have, these, they call them a kebab, these 3 dots. If I click on them, there's all these things I can do. I only have used 3 of them. And one is to duplicate. So if you create a discussion and you really like it and you want to do 3 more of those, I would duplicate the first one and then amend the rest. So all your settings are the same and everything's the same. And that way you're not starting from fresh and going, oh, what setting did I have on that one? Do I have it on this? I would just duplicate it and then change the name and what you want folks to do. I will share to the Commons if I have a, I like how my discussion board is set up. I'll share it to the Commons to bring it back into a different course and not have to set it up again. And then the last thing I'll do is I'll delete it if I made one and it really wasn't supposed to be there. Otherwise, I don't use anything else on that.
Kathy?
Yes.
I have a question. I'm going to be new to this cross-linking courses.
Mm-hmm.
And before I didn't do that in the winter semester when we went on, just survival mode, basically.
Right.
But I did a discussion board then, and it was so long. So I want to do a meta course. Would I use the duplicate feature with that? I don't know how it's going to look. Or when I have a meta course, will it automatically divide those students in the same Canvas dashboard, but yet have two discussions going? I'm not quite sure if I'm answering this right.
I hate to keep saying I'm going to get to that, but I think I'm going to get.
Oh, okay.
No, you're fine. You're fine. And I love that you were asking the questions. And keep that question in your mind. If I don't address it, let me know. But it's kind of like a two-part question. One, should you, it's not meta now, it's cross-linked.
Cross-link.
Yeah. And I would recommend cross-linking courses because then you don't have to do your announcement twice and everything.
Sure.
Like that. And so you can submit like a help desk work order. I don't know what I want to call it. But if you go to Moodle Help, like we used to, for at the top of it, there's a link to a Google Doc for cross-linking. And if you fill that out, they'll cross-link your courses for you. Okay, and then I'll talk about, oh, now I've got 50 people in my class. What do I do? I'll talk about that in just a minute. Okay, so that's all I do. So then when we're looking at assignments, if it has this little green thing with the pencil there, that means it's graded. It's a graded assignment. Over here, really important, you always have to have this green box with a check to say that it's published. Now with that, I don't publish things until they're needed. I don't open my entire course for folks until the week before. So sometimes you might not have it a green box. And then here it's going to tell you when it's due. And right here, the 6 and the 7, this is saying there's been 7 replies on this board. 6 of them are still on red. Okay. Again, I don't really use this. I kind of like to see maybe how many. You can have a peer review where students will do a peer review. I've never done it, but you would know that it's won by looking at that. And then this number 7 is subscribing or unsubscribing. I would never subscribe to a discussion board, in my opinion, because if you subscribe to it, you'll get an email for everything that comes in. And you're like, oh, I don't ever want to do that. And so here this says, this is available until June 21st. And so that's when it ends, and a student can click on it and they can't get back in. And that's my way of saying, I don't accept late work for this. So if we want to create a discussion, we're going to hit the plus discussion board and fill in our topic and, our description. Why don't I do this live here? So if I go here and go back down to my discussions, so I'm going to pick a discussion. I, would put my title in. I'll call it online journal, and then a description. I could, and I do often, I do put documents here. And so they have a document that they can read. if I was a cross-linked course, I could create an assignment. There's only one CRN in here, but if I had 2 CRNs, I could give them each section a different discussion board. So I could do that. Here's if I want to attach a file, a file that I've already got the description in. And so I always pick, it's going to be a threaded reply. Here's an important one, is I always pick this, and users must post before they see others. Otherwise, I choose it for 2 different reasons. The main reason I choose it is because I don't want someone to go in, read someone else's work, get all their ideas from that person's work, and then come out and do their work. That's my main reason. My secondary reason for it is because otherwise it's kind of messy to read. If I was to go in and I'm going to read this could actually be her reply to other. You know what I mean? When I'm grading, replies to other could come first, versus I always like that when I'm reading their work, their initial reply is the first thing that is at the top of my grading for them. So I don't need a podcast. I'm going to grade it. And here, Teresa, here's where I can say this is a group discussion. Okay? So if you have 2 sections here, I could do this, and I can call it a name. I can call it GA. And then, and I can create a group discussion. Typically, you should do it by sections, because my understanding is there's FERPA stuff that we can't kind of cross the sections over. So create a couple groups and do that.
Thank you.
No problem. So here's your points. Typically my points are 40 points. It seems like a lot. I'd rather have lots of points than little points, because then as you're grading, it's easier to, take, if you only have a 5-point discussion board, you take 1 point off and they're down to 80%. So I always do 40. And you can choose different things, letter grade points. I just always pick points. And then for a discussion board, I actually have an area in my grade book for discussions. So I would put it in my discussion area. I don't want anyone to do a peer review. And then here's where, let's say this is going to be due this Friday. And then, this Sunday. And then I would say this Sunday, boom, you're done. So July 26th, when you turn it, it's done. They cannot access it anymore, okay? There's one other thing. Yes?
Can they, when you have the date of July 19th, but it's available until the 26th?
Oh, well, I don't know what I'm doing, Vicki. Thank you.
No, but what I'm asking is.
I would do both there.
Okay.
I would have it both there. But there's something else I do with my dates. And I pick, okay, so now I have 2 due dates each week for discussion boards. One for their initial posting and one for replies to others.
Okay.
So actually I would put my due date here as Friday, even which is for the initial posting. And then this is when the others are due, and this is confusing right now, and I'll get right back and I'll show you what I'm doing. Let me get to one of these. So it's confusing for students, I think. And so this was due, this is due, initials responses are due June 19th, and this is in my title. I put this right in my title for them of my discussion board. So it says initial response due June 19th, responses to others due June 21st. That's in the title because I think it can be a little misleading. But if you see here, right here, it says this is due June 19th. I don't want anyone to come to me on Sunday if I had put the Sunday date in. Well, it says it's due on the 21st. I didn't do my initial response because you have the 21st. So I use the main date here for the initial response, and then they have 2 more days to do their replies to others. And I don't know if I did it for this or not, but essentially what I do is for the other date, the 21st, so right here, I make a calendar date for them. So it shows up on their calendar. All it is a calendar date. And it's the got grit responses to others due.
Kathy,
Yes.
how do you tell them how many different peers they are responding to?
Give me just a minute and I'm going to be right there. And I have that coming up. Okay.
Okay. All right.
So I'm back to this. So we went through all this. This is what a typical discussion board of mine would look like. Why do we have so few women leaders? I have a link here to go see a TED Talk. Here are the questions that I want them to answer, and I have a rubric. Okay, very good. So here's another one of my discussion boards. Here's the board, and I have this attached document. Whoops. And so everything's written on a document that they open up. Are we all good? Okay, so when to use groups again, Teresa. They say the optimal size is about 20 students. So if you have multiple sections, cross-link them, keep it to the sections for purple reasons. The other thing you have to keep in mind is probably in nursing, most of your students make it all the way through. Business, not always, because it's like, oh, what should I do? And they say, well, I better take a degree, so that they end up in business. And a lot of times some of them don't make it through. So you don't want to have a class where a lot of people are going to drop and you've made 2 different groups. So rubrics and speed grader. This is by rubric, and this will get to one of your questions, Caroline. So I have a minimum of 200 words, and that 200 words does not count the questions themselves, okay? Mm-hmm. And I've tried doing less than 200, and I just don't get as good as stuff. So I do you need 200 words. If you only did 160, 24 out of the 30 points for this part, you'd only get 19 of the points. It's just a slice right off the top. The initial response, I'll accept till Sunday when that thing closes down. So if your initial response comes in on Saturday, you lose 3 points. If it comes in on Sunday, I'm going to take 6 points off. And that's that. I make them insert the questions into their reply. Okay. And if I don't do that, I get 1 huge paragraph. So I've asked them 3 questions, and now I'm digging through a paragraph, trying to figure out, who said, what part of this paragraph answers question 1, what part answers question 2. I find it really easier to grade by saying, copy the questions over to, to your response. And then I take points off for spelling and grammar. And then also up here, there's content, if your content's not good.
Do you tell them what aspect of their content was faulty? Like there wasn't enough content, or the content was there, but the organization was poor? How do you respond so they know exactly what they did incorrectly?
I'm gonna grade one here in a minute, and I'll show you some of my tips and tricks.
Okay.
I know you guys keep thinking, no, she's gonna, if I don't answer it, come back to me, okay?
All right.
So then this is part one. This is the initial response, which is 30 points, and then responses to others. And Caroline, here's one of your questions. How do I tell them? You need 2 quality responses to others each week. So each of these responses is 5 points each. And then responses such as I agree, I don't agree, or I'm glad you said that, that doesn't count as a response. It needs to have something to it. And then also down here, I have no late responses to others are accepted. That board closes on Sunday and we're done.
Kathy, could we
Yes.
use both of these as a template if we modify it to our own? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome to.
all right, thank you.
You can have anything I have. Okay. So, and then the other thing I did during the stay at home is I made a little rubric in Excel, and I was just copying and pasting this into the comments. So that's another way you can do a little rubric. Okay, I'm gonna go in, let me go back into here. So let me go here. Oh shoot, let me go. I'm using a class that was a dummy class. So let me see if there we go. Okay, I'm back here. And so I showed you the feed. So the first thing I'm gonna do is show you how to grade. And the thing I don't like about Canvas is that I wish they would indent these replies a little bit, but they don't. So here is one person's response, initial response, and then these 2 people responded. And then you just have to look here to see a little space. This begins someone else's initial response, and one person responded to them, okay? So that's a little wacky. The best thing about Canvas is the grading, because grading in Moodle was tough. So I'm gonna go up here, and I've created some dummy people, and the dummy people have actual student work in it. So I go up here and I pick my speed grader, okay? And I've used this once, so I couldn't, it says 0 here. This should just be blank. It shouldn't have anything. I couldn't reset that, but I pulled the grade out. So here's Andrea. I call her Andrea All Knowing. And so I'm looking at her work. I can't scroll down, so she has not responded to anybody, but here's her initial response. The other thing Canvas doesn't have is they don't have a word counter. So you can do an add-on to your browser and get a word counter. So if I go in here, I've added a word counter. I can highlight this and do a right click and do my word count, and it's not coming up here. I think because I'm sharing a screen, otherwise it would come up. So Andrea has more than her 200, so she's good, okay? And when you're looking at Andrea's, now I have these, this is for a discussion board. I do the first week of my supervision class, and it's called Do You Have Grit? And it's with Angela Duckworth. For my first week in all of my classes, I do a discussion board that is, you don't need the textbook for. So in supervision, I have Got Grit. In Business 101, I have a Hollywood producer talking about, are you curious? In my quality class, I have a video of products that just really failed. And I have something that's on topic, but not, they don't need the book for. And so here's there were 4 questions there. You can see with, what's her name, Andrea here, this is just really nice to grade. I've got my question, I read the response. I got the question, I read the response, okay? So looking at this, I look at the rubric, and so the rubric here, her content's good. She's got all the words that we need, so we're gonna give her 24 points. Are we good? She inserted the questions, they're beautiful. She even has them bolded. I love her immediately. Her spelling and grammar was wonderful. We'll let that stay. But there's no responses to others. So I'm gonna keep that a 0 and that a 0. And when I save it, it'll give her her grade automatic using this rubric that I had inserted into Canvas. Okay. So then I only have 3 in here. Here's Bob, he didn't do anything. So here's Charlie Charming. And when I look at Charlie here, he only has 162 words. So, and I don't have how many points, so I'm gonna fudge the points. He didn't do the questions, and you can see, even though I wrote those questions, he, I like reading the questions as I'm grading. Having the questions there, I just find saves me time. So I'm gonna look at the rubric. I don't know what the calculation is. Let's say out of 24, he's only gonna get 18 points here. He didn't insert the question, so it's a 0. His spelling and grammar was good, so let's give him the full points. And then this is a nice response to other, but this, I enjoyed reading your post, blah, blah, blah. That's not a really great response. It tells me, it doesn't move the conversation forward. So I'm gonna give him 3 points on that. And then I'll save it. And then there's his grade 24 out of 40. Okay. And then my last guy is Ernie Ernest. He didn't submit his questions. And so now, you know, if I go back, look at the first one, would you rather grade this with the questions in it, or Ernie Ernest, who just has this big paragraph? And now you got to start figuring out what goes to what. Did they skip a question? Didn't they? So he will automatically lose 3 points for that. Ernie did have his 200 words there. His content was good, so we'll give him that. He didn't get that. Let's say his, you know, he had a couple little errors there, so I'm only going to give him 2 out of 3. And again, here, I really like what you said. Good work. That's only like a 1-pointer in my book. So, and then I'll give them full points for this, and I'll save it, and it automatically grades it.
Kathy, this is Michelle. At the bottom there where it says assignment comments, if you wanted to give very specific feedback about anything, you could do a narrative yourself for all or any particular student.
Thank you for asking this. I use, here's my other little tip. A couple of you know this. I use what's called OneNote. And so let me bring my OneNote over. And here's my OneNote. And you can have the college upload this. It's something the college has. So for every one of my classes, here's all my classes. I have things in Canvas, like I was looking how to integrate, you know, Cengage and stuff. So anything I need is right here. Here's this. Here's the class that I'm in right now. My announcements, like here's my welcome to 263. Here's, I have everything in here, and all I have to do is copy and paste it over to the class. Okay, So then to Michelle's question, what about feedback? Here's the things that I would give about for feedback. So you bring up an important point. So I copy, I paste this, and then I would put between the quotes here, Ernie. Okay, and then I can submit the whole thing and they have that feedback. Okay. Are you good? And then if you want to be really fancy, well, I don't know, fancy, is I do most of my grading with my iPad. And so I will do a voice to text feedback. And I just hit my keyboard mic and I go, Ernie, comma, new line. This was excellent, period, new line, Kathy Kerstetter. And then hit send and off it goes. You can also, down here, I can do audio, and audio, start recording, 2, 3, 1. Ernie, I really loved what you did. That was terrific. Good job. Wait for it to get together, and then you can save it and it'll stay, Ernie can listen to your voice then. Okay, and there it is for him to listen to. Are we good? Are we doing good?
Do we have to have IT put that on? Is
What
it
this?
that customer support to have that OneNote?
Yes, yes. IT can do that, and I use it for, I can't tell you how much stuff I use it for. You know, like Canvas. See, I've got Molly's and David's video feeds here, and it's just easy. I can go to YouTube, it's fine, but here's like how-tos on how to do quizzes in Canvas. You know, here's the link validator, you know, in case I forget where it is. I just have it all kind of here. You know, Canvas, I have course building blocks. Where'd that go? Course building blocks, you know, different feedbacks, different rubrics from other people. So I use it a ton, and it just makes everything so nice and organized, and I can copy and paste really easily.
Kathy, is the audio feedback though, is that just built in even
Yes.
without OneNote? Okay.
Yep, that's built in. Yep.
It's not part, you don't have to have OneNote to have the audio then.
No, OneNote's just my little storage area. The other thing I use OneNote for is like for this 263, you know, we get to that time where someone says, what textbook are we using? And I just take and copy this and email them back, and I don't have to look. Otherwise, I have to look up what book we're using too for them. So I do that. Most people with Cengage, if they have problems, I can help them. If not, eventually I give them copy and paste and send that off. So it's my one-stop shopping for things that, you know, like my copy and paste heaven. Oh, I think I stopped sharing there. Let me share again. Okay, let's go back to our, okay, should go back to this. I'm gonna get out of this and let's finish our, some of my tips and tricks. So, as I mentioned, I have, we're week 1. It's a good way too for students to get used to the discussion boards, get used to the rubrics. Some students aren't used to rubrics. Another one for my business math class this fall, I'm gonna do a week 1 academic dishonesty discussion board to get them talking about that. So again, I always have initial postings due on Friday, responses to others due on Sunday. You know, the week always starts on Monday. It goes Monday through Sunday, but I actually open that week like on the Thursday before. Okay, so they have about 10 days to work on their work. One of my main reasons I give them those 10 days is I have a lot of working adults that work 8 to 5, and they only do homework on weekends. So by having these assignments open 2 weeks, the overachievers can get it done that first weekend and feel relaxed all week long. And they don't have to worry about it. Where an overachiever, if they're not going to get to their assignment, until the day it's due, they're going to be grumpy. So I always give them 2 weekends in order to do the work.
So you post everything on Friday, is that right?
I typically try to hit it on Thursday,
Thursday.
Friday at the latest. Yep. My main thing is I'm trying to give the overachievers, again, about 2 weekends to do it.
Okay.
Okay. The other thing about consistency is by having things always do the same days, again, those folks that are working, or just anybody, even a traditional student probably has 1 or 2 jobs and it's got to go here or there. They don't have to continue to look at the calendar to see when something's due. They know it's Friday night, I have something due tonight. So they can be running around and not panic. So I always use a consistent calendar.
And I think that structure that you can count on is even more important during these times.
Right.
When I did a couple gave them more time because I thought that they would need it.
Uh-huh.
They didn't like having it due on a different day. They
Right.
wanted the same day.
The consistency. Yep.
Yep.
So, and I went through this already, that I use Friday for the, initial response due, and then I create a calendar item for responses to others. The Friday due date, because it's attached to the assignment, will automatically show up on the calendar, and then you create a due date for others, for the responses to others. And then again, here's how I title it, and I have that right in the title. Some people say that's a lot of work. I don't know. I just, I'm a big copy and paster, copy paste. So
It's a lot less work than fielding the emails about when something's due.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Yes. And then when you bring it to their attention, then they go, oh, okay, yeah. So and then this is how it would look in a student's to-do list. Discussion board, again, the dates are right there for them. And then here's the responses to others.
And does it automatically go to the calendar, or do you have to put it in the calendar too?
This top one here, Caroline,
Yeah.
which is for the initial response that's on the 19th, that automatically goes to the calendar. But because I need a second due date for the responses to others, this one, I have to make a calendar date for it.
Oh, okay.
And so see here, this little icon, this
Uh-huh.
little icon here means discussion board, two little boxes talking to each other.
Uh-huh.
And this one just shows that it's something on the calendar and not attached to an assignment.
But if that had been separate, if you had not included them both under the first item, it would have gone onto the calendar automatically?
Just this first one would have.
Right, but if you didn't have responses to others due June 21st in that spot, you had it in a different spot, would it automatically go to the calendar?
I'm not sure can anyone help me here?
Okay, you have discussion board got grit initial response due June 19th. What
Yep.
if you had another item that said discussion board got grit responses to others due June 21st?
It's
You had
right
two.
here.
I have
Why wouldn't
used
there
it.
be two separate, why wouldn't the calendar automatically do each one then?
Because an assignment, you can only give one grade to an assignment. And I kind of thought Canvas would have thought this out, but maybe at some point we'll get an update. But I used to have to do the same thing in Moodle for my discussion boards. I did a calendar date for everything, for the responses to others. Does that?
That doesn't make sense to me though.
I think what she's asking, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think because the first due date, June 19th, automatically goes to a calendar. And I think what Caroline's asking is if at the end of that statement, due at 11:55 p.m., the second response to others due date of June 21st, if they were together, would that automatically go to the calendar? Is that what you're asking?
I'm asking, you have two assignments that are sort of together, right? You got
Right.
the initial response and then
Well,
you get
they're
response to others.
sharing an assignment in Canvas together.
Okay, never mind. This is too complicated.
Cause see what they're doing, let me go back here. You know, here we are with Ernie Ernest. He's getting graded for two different things. Here's this first one. This is due on Friday, and these two things are due on Sunday. So there's two different due dates for this one overall assignment.
So Canvas only thinks there's one assignment. That's why there's only one calendar date.
Absolutely, yep.
Okay.
So that, Michelle, thank you. What I'm asking is if you treated it as two assignments, would it go on the calendar automatically?
If I created a second assignment for responses,
Yes.
it would go on the calendar.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
But then these would not, you couldn't reply directly underneath what you wanted to reply.
Okay.
Okay? To keep
All right.
it all in one area, I have to create a dummy due date.
Okay.
Okay, back to, so got grit. Kind of weird that I found this out making this presentation. This says 12 a.m. I actually have it in the calendar as 11:55 and it made it 12 a.m. on this. So that's a little different. Okay. I've said this like in nauseam. I don't know. What I tell students is the replies to other. This is what I find students of today, and maybe we were the same way too, is that they don't know what to say in response. And so I try to encourage them that, you know, at some point your boss is going to say to you, what's your opinion on this? And so here's your training ground to kind of muster what your opinion is, how to present your opinion in a favorable way, even though it may not be coinciding with what your boss says. So this is your time to practice this. It's time to say, wait, I think they could have gone a little further. I'm going to give them some more information on it. And so, you know, and sometimes this is where my feedback comes in. You know, have you thought about, you know, saying this or that? You know, trying to get the feedback going. So here's my cautionary tale, is don't overuse discussions. The first semester I taught online, which was quite a few years ago now, maybe 6-8 years ago, I had all discussion boards. Every week was a discussion board. That's the same thing, 200 word, blah, blah, blah. By Thanksgiving, I could have just like choked myself. I'm like, oh, I'm so tired of discussion boards. And the students were telling me, we are so tired of discussion boards. And I'm like, I totally agree. Wait, let's not do that. So here's actually how I do my class. I have 3 different types of main assignments a week. One I call explorations, and those are things where I'll say, you know, go to the web, find, you know, one of them for supervision, find a cutting edge style of management, not democratic, not autocratic, find that and bring that in. And then I have case studies for them to do, and then I have discussion boards. So with 15 weeks, they have 5 explorations, 5 case studies, and 5 discussion boards. With that, I also drop, this is one whole category, and I drop 2 of these. okay? I always drop 2. There's 15 quizzes, I drop 2. And the reason I do that is that I don't want to play God. And if someone comes to me and says, my kid was in a car accident, can I have more time? I feel really bad your child was in a car accident. One semester I didn't do this and I had to keep a spreadsheet for all the extensions I gave and what I needed to go back and regrade. So now I just tell students, I'm really sorry to hear about that. The good news is you get to drop 2 of these so we can all continue to move forward. And it saves me a ton of time. The really good students who are there all the time just kind of maybe want a week off because they're really, hitting it hard. And so that's how I do it. Or if there's just a topic they don't like, okay, you can miss a couple weeks. And, and if you're taking more than 2 weeks, then we have a whole nother thing going on. So that's how I do that. And then, so I present it this way, and I've got your due date, your late policy, how to hand in for each one. And then at the end of this presentation, if you get it, I have some extra reading you could click on and read some different stuff.
So we just email you if we want to get everything that you could give us online?
If you want my slides that I have.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Did I answer all the questions that I said we're going to get to that? We're going to get to that. Did I answer all your questions?
You answered mine.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other questions? Okay. Same to you, Teresa. And I have 2 minutes left.
So we need to email you that we want these. We just can't tell you that we want them.
We want them. We all want them.
Yeah,
We all want them.
If everyone wants them, I have your emails. I'll send them to you.
Okay.
Yes, we do. You're so amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Well,
thanks
thank
to everybody who
Great
tried
questions.
to articulate my question better than I did.
I know. I think my brain's a little dead. So, yeah. So, and if you have other questions, I think almost everybody here knows they can contact me. Michelle, you can contact me anytime, so I'm always happy to help.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks.
So much, Kathy.
Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.